Hello, everybody. Wyatt Andrews Workshop here, and welcome back to yet another episode. Well, I hesitate to call it an episode because we only did one of these, but last April, almost 2 years ago at this point, which is crazy to think about, I made my first version of the animal tier list, and it got a whole bunch of views, so we're doing it again. But we're not doing the whole thing again because that would be like well over an hour, and I don't think anyone wants to watch me retrace my steps. So we're just going to look at the animals that have since been added. We've since gotten the Africa pack, the North American animal pack, the Europe pack, wetlands animal pack, conservation pack, and the Twilight DLC. And we're about to get the grassland animal pack pretty soon, but I just figured I would get this video out as soon as possible, and yeah, because I just want to get something out before I record the next episode of Orwell, and I thought this would be a fun, quick way to do that. And we'll definitely just continue to update these as more DLCs come out, which I don't know how much longer they're going to do this, but maybe once support ends, we'll do like a final one, and maybe we'll go through all of the animals again. But for now, we're just going to work with these guys down here, and I just say we just get right into it. So, starting with the Alpine Ibex. So the European DLC, which came out almost a year ago, I've mostly just used the pieces from it, which have all been great and super useful. The animals have kind of been put on the back burner for me personally, just because they haven't really found their way into any of my projects. But from what I've seen from other people's work and like other people's builds, or like on the workshop where they've had the animals in them, the Alpine Ibex looks really, really good. And I think I'll be using the Ibex pretty soon in my new Africa Pavilion section, because I want to do like a multi-species exhibit with them and the Hamadryas baboon. So I'll definitely be getting more of them, but for now I think they're going to go solidly in A tier. Alligator, American alligator, S tier, because they're already really good at crocodilians, frontier, but this I think was like the next level. Absolutely incredible job on the American alligator. The skin detail, as usual, is incredible, and it was long overdue, and I think I have yet to use it, but I think it will definitely find its way into one of my projects very soon. I'm not like teasing anything, I don't know when, but it definitely will, because I love alligators, so why not? American bullfrog. So before we go any further, I want to preface and say that so this is like an updated tier list, and I skipped on most of the exhibit animals, but all of the new exhibit animals from these DLCs are featured. So yeah, American bullfrog. I like the American bullfrog. It's a frog. It's a nice frog. I'm trying to think. I probably would have gone with something like the Colorado river toad, or maybe something more conservationally significant. But for what it is, I'm happy with what we got for the American bullfrog, so that's going to go in B tier. A more leopard. Oh boy! So, good model in general. Weird eyes, weird face. Very sad eyes. I don't know really what happened there. Frontier sometimes struggles with the faces of the carnivorans, which I don't really blame them for, because as an artist they are very difficult to draw. I only was able to draw them I wasn't able to draw them well until very recently. So I understand the struggle for sure, but I don't know. It's just a little off to me. The remaster and the mod that came out before that amend those issues though. But I guess it's a C tier, because I've kind of reserved C tier for animals that I like but have kind of been done a little dirty. So yeah, I think the Amur leopard fits there pretty well. Arctic fox. Love the Arctic fox. Unfortunately, it is white year-round. Did I just delete it? No, I just advanced moved it. It's white year-round, and I wish the regular like summer coat was more common to purchase in the trade center, but it's still a phenomenal creature, and I'm really glad it's here. But yeah, that's A tier. A tier is like a perfect animal that just has like 1 or 2 issues, compared to S tier where it's just perfect. So yeah. Asian small-clawed otter. I also have yet to use these. I just haven't really found a place for them, but I've gotten a pretty great look at them in Tharmashadi when I was working in that file. I don't know why it's in all caps compared to the others. It's a little weird, but yeah, long-awaited addition to the game for sure. Super useful and versatile in any zoo setting. Both, I mean, in real life, but like most of us are trying to recreate like real life in some way. So the Asian small-clawed otter gets that done just fine. So I think that's an S tier for sure. The axolotl, that's probably one of the better exhibit animals for sure. Yeah, and they kind of amended the Arctic fox issue where like you usually see like albino axolotls in captivity, but the wild ones are usually this color. So I'm glad they went that route. I'm not saying like white Arctic foxes are albino because they all turn white in the winter, but for most of the year they're not this color. So it's nice to see something like that amended with the axolotl. So yeah, that's an A. Prairie dog. I am actually currently working on a prairie dog exhibit. I won't explain much further, but yeah, I've really come to love these guys. They're fantastic. Really cute, really well done model, great behaviors, great hitbox, actually. I want to comment on that. Really, they've gotten a lot better with the hitboxes for the smaller animals where you can like make like tunnels and like really complicated like tight backstage spaces. And they'll go through all of it, and it's amazing. So shout out to Frontier for that. Really great animal, S tier. The black and white ruffed lemur. This was for the 2nd anniversary of the game last year. I don't like it quite as much as the red ruffed lemur. I think the like fur grooming is a little more like kind of blocky, and I hesitate to say stylized because I don't know what their intention was. But compared to the red ruffed lemur, this is just a lot more convincing to me. But I mean, functionally, it's the same animal. But I just like the red ruffed lemur a little more. California sea lion. I have some issues with this one. It is, I think I have this issue with a lot of the bears too, where like the like body type like choice wasn't really the best. It's definitely on the heavier side, and that's what all of them look like. And I also really don't like the default like chocolate color that they went with. I think it's very generic. I much prefer like the black sea lions with like the brighter snouts aesthetically, which is sort of in the game, but it's a lot more subdued and it's just kind of eh. But it's still something we've all wanted for a really long time, and I'm really happy to see them, so they're gonna go in B tier regardless. Where are we? Capybara. We actually do have Capybara in Orwell now, so I've gotten plenty of time to get used to them. Really, I don't know. Is it an S tier? It's just not my favorite animal is the thing. Like I have to factor in my like enjoyment of the animal itself in these rankings, and not just like the quality of the in-game character, I guess is the way to call it. So yeah, Capybara, it's good. Yeah. I really have no strong opinions on it. It's I guess technically perfect, but I'm just not terribly enthusiastic about them. So yeah, unlike some people it seems. Common wombat, this is a very recent addition. From what I can tell, it is great. Sort of like the capybara, just another like little brown chunky mammal that I have really no strong opinions on, but yeah, I think okay, here's one reason. I would have much preferred the hairy-nosed wombat, or the one with like the pointier ears that was the mod for a while. I mean, it still is. It's still there. You can get it, but yeah, I think I would have just preferred that because I think it's a much more unique species than the common wombat. But otherwise, good. A tier. Tired Andrew's workshop over here. The cougar, really solid big cat. I haven't spent enough time with it to say it's an S tier for sure. but I still really, really like it from what I've seen. So that's another A tier. I promise these won't all be A tier. The Danube-crested newt. This was the European DLC animal, I think, for the exhibit. Really, really good. Yeah, I promise we won't just keep putting these in A tier. I have very strong opinions on some of these coming up, so yeah, please stick around. Egyptian fruit bat. Oh, I'm torn between A and S tier because the exhibit box containment method is a little disappointing. I would have liked to have just maybe like put them down somewhere and built the habitat around them, which you can do, but like in its current state, it's a little limiting. But I just think after seeing what Eben did in St. Reginald Zoo, it's so cool to have something like this. And if this is what they're doing with birds eventually, I mean, that's a big if, because some people are way too confident about it. But if this is what they're doing with the birds, I would honestly be happy. So I really have I guess I have the issue of the exhibit box, but that can't really apply to this bat specifically. So I think I'm going to put it in S tier. The lynx. I actually really like the lynx. I think it will have a lot of application because they are actually very wide-ranging. They're all throughout Europe and Asia. So I could definitely put these in like a Siberian section or like a Asian Highlands section, and they'd fit in perfectly actually. And it looks really, really good too, especially the fur around the face with like the sideburns and stuff. It's great. That's an S tier for sure. European badger. So this is one where like, let's say like the wombat or the capybara, for example, like I don't really have strong opinions on them, but I really like the animal anyway, and I could definitely use it in like an Australia section or a nocturnal house and a South America section. For a European badger, there's really only so many opportunities I have to use it, unless I'm doing like some sort of roadside like nature center type deal, which I could, but like I think I would just use the American badger for something like that. So yeah, this guy, it's technically just fine, but I'm going to have to put it in B tier for that application. Fallow deer. I used these in Orwell in the hoofstock row setting, and they look really, really good. I'm not much of a deer guy, but I think they do just fine in A tier. Fennec fox. S tier. Just like the prairie dog, a really great small mammal edition, which we were sorely lacking in the early game, and another one where it's got a really tiny hitbox, so you can go super in depth with the habitat design. So yeah, excellent. S tier. Fire salamander. I think another solid exhibit animal. I like the crested newt just a little more, but I think it's still a solid A tier. Especially the modeling on this one is really good for an exhibit animal. They really nailed the wrinkly texture of it. Meerkat, sort of same type deal as the other two, just a small burrowing mammal, and one like I'm gonna put it down to A tier. Not because I don't have anything to say about it, but because I would have appreciated if they specified the species of the meerkat, because we've got like, there's slender-tailed meerkats, and then I think there's one or two others, and I would have appreciated if they specified which one it was. And I also think these look a lot more like wild meerkats, which captive meerkats can be like really well fed, and they get a lot rounder and plumper than wild meerkats. And yeah, and I feel like they ought to have shorter tails, and they shouldn't be so saturated. But otherwise, solid. Great to have meerkats in the game, finally. Moose. It's good moose. I feel so lazy putting these all in A tier, but they're all for like different reasons. A tier is kind of my wastebasket, but yeah, I think my problem here, the reason it's not an S tier, is because I can only use a moose so much. Obviously for like a North America section, but otherwise it's pretty limiting. You don't really see moose in like hoofed animal rows or like anything else besides like just North America sections. Compared to something like, let's use the otter for example. You can put this like rainforest section, Asia section, freshwater aquarium section, children's zoo, like zoo entrance plaza exhibit, because everyone loves otters and that's like what people come to see. It's just, the moose is just quite so versatile for that, and that's kind of the real animal's fault. But yeah, that's just why it's not an S tier, not quite. Where are we? This is kind of all over the place. The Nile, I've been calling it a Nile Lechwe. I'm pretty sure that's the correct name, but we're gonna find out while we're editing. But yeah, these guys look awesome. I just love this animal in real life too. It's a really fascinating ungulate, and I love the colors. The hair grooming on this model is excellent. I think that is an S tier ungulate. I'm gonna use these in Orwell for the new Africa Pavilion, so that'll be really exciting. Yeah, very few like bad new animals, if any. I'm trying to think going down, but like these have all been great. They've really improved these past couple updates. Let's go to the beaver. Is beaver S tier? I don't know. Because beavers aren't like terribly common in zoos, sort of like the moose. But you could use beavers in like small mammal houses or freshwater aquariums. I plan on using beavers for Orwell's children's zoo area, so maybe S tier. I don't know. I'm not terribly fond of beavers. I'm not that passionate about them, but I think it's fair because they also have the enrichment item, and we got all of those like really cool placeable birch sticks because of them, and they look really cool when they're swimming underwater. So like I don't think it's fair to put them anywhere below S tier. So yeah. Platypus, instant S tier, baby. I freaking love platypus. That's like a top 50 animal for me, which doesn't sound so big until you remember that there's millions of species of animals. So I think somewhere in the top 50 is a pretty big deal. And similar to the beaver, it's just another great animal to have really cool like features implemented with it. And platypus are not common in zoos whatsoever. The only one in the US, as far as I know, is at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, which I actually got to see, even though it was like a dark, crowded room that you had to like keep walking through because it was so cramped. It's like they had to keep like the foot traffic going. But just to catch a glimpse of a platypus was a pretty exciting thing. So it's great to have them, and I use them anyway, despite the lack of realism in that regard. So yeah, Przewalski's horse. I don't know. A or S. This is kind of a less exciting video because, like I said, all of these new animals are so consistently good that we're just kind of hanging out up here. I might actually revisit the lower tiers later in the video because there's been some new additions that I'd like to explain. But yeah, that's just another solid hoofed animal. And they're getting increasingly common in zoos as their like breeding program expands. So they're definitely going to find their way into Orwell at some point. So yeah, solid. Raccoon. Much better than the badger, I think, because raccoons are somewhat more versatile. I've seen them used in a lot of different contexts. So I'm thinking they're landing well. I don't know, because they look great. They're really nice and like skinny, which is actually pretty unusual for a Planet Zoo animal. They're always on the rounder side, but they look really good for raccoons. Raccoons are often quite well fed, but it's nice to see like a sort of less represented body type for the animal, which is actually pretty common for like wild ones, especially in urban settings. So I think that's pretty cool to see for this one specifically. I have yet to build with raccoons, but I think they look and act great in the game, so I think they're going to land in S tier. Red deer. This is just one I have no strong opinions of whatsoever. So I think that's like an automatic B tier. But this was the one that they did for the 3-year anniversary, so yeah, that's where that landed. Red fox. Similar to the red deer and the badger. When am I ever going to use this? A lot of people have been making red fox habitats, but I'm kind of like, why? Because like they don't really show up. They're kind of it's gonna sound mean, but they're kind of just like pest animals. Not very exciting to me, at least. I find other species of fox much more interesting, and these guys are just so widespread and like just kind of whatever. And like, when am I ever gonna use them? Like I said, like unless I'm building like some sort of like roadside nature rescue center that's like local, but yeah, otherwise it looks good though. It does look just fine. Spectacled caiman. I definitely prefer other crocodilians aesthetically, but I cannot underestimate just how good these kinds of animals look. I don't know. Is it not fair to put them in A tier? I think they might deserve S tier. I don't know. I'll just put them in A tier for now. Okay. Southern white rhino, S. It looks so good. A lot better than the Indian rhino, where the male looks really good, but the female just doesn't for some reason. It's got like a completely different like outline for like the body proportions, and it just doesn't look as good. Rhinos are consistent between sexes. They just look phenomenal, and it's so good to have them actually, because we didn't have them for a long time, and all we had was the Indian rhino, and we had to pretend that was the white rhino, and that got really distracting. So it's truly great to have them. Okay. Skunk. This one is even like more random. Like what the people were like, the scenery for the Twilight Pack, it's so like over themed. But like my issue was the species roster for the Twilight Pack, because Egyptian fruit bat, great. Wombat, great. Raccoon, really? Fox, no. Skunk, no. Just like some like super common like Euro-American small mammals that have just been like infiltrated like urban spaces and that are not in zoos at all. And it's just like, why? We could have gotten like Tasmanian devils and like pottos or like galagos or bush babies or anything. Just not a skunk. Yeah, not useful. Looks good, but just truly never gonna work with this thing unless I'm in somebody else's project and it's there. Yeah. Skunk. Red-crowned crane, I think that's an A tier. Simply on the fact that I would have much preferred another species of bird in this vein. I would have preferred like a shoebill stork or like a jabiru stork, or just something that's not like so like, how do I say this? This is kind of complicated, but let's like, you don't see them too much, and like their biome isn't really like wetlands. Like we for the wetlands, we got a lot of like swamp animals, right? And this I don't really think swamp when I see red-crowned cranes. I think like boreal forest, like, because that's where they live in Japan. It's not really, I guess they could live in wetlands if they wanted to, but that's just not really how I picture them. I would have much preferred something like I said, a shoebill, or basically a shoebill. All I want is a shoebill stork, and the red-crowned crane got in the way. But it did introduce some really cool new feather mechanics, and they're useful for Asian sections, so I think it's only fair to keep them in A tier. But they took away my they didn't take away, but they got in the way of my shoebill, and that's all I wanted. Wild water buffalo. Yeah, it's nice to have them, I guess. I don't really feel like they needed to be in the Wetlands DLC. I wish we got something a little more exotic, especially considering that these guys are basically domesticated. I know they made the distinction of wild water buffalo, but still, it's just a little disappointing. They look fine though. I'll put them in B. There you go. And the last two, Scimitar Horned Oryx. These guys look awesome. I really like how like kind of shaggy they made them. I thought that was an interesting choice, but I feel like they're just kind of flexing the fur texture, which like the like fur shader that they have, which is justified. Yeah, these guys look great. I don't know when I'm going to use them for anything, but yeah, I think they're very pretty, and I would like to use them for something. I'm just not sure what. And then last but not least, the Siamang. The Siamang is a really complicated one because they look great, they sound great, they move okay. So on the ground, they walk on all fours, which isn't unheard of, but it's also just kind of weird that they do it constantly. Sometimes they do walk on their hind legs, and it looks really funny and cool when they do it, which is great, but I kind of wish they did it like frequently when they're on the ground, but they don't. And then the climbing is I realize like the only way they could get them to brachiate and do the other stuff was via the bars that they were given, but like when they're just using like the regular like climbable pieces, they like gallop on all fours, which looks so bad and dumb. That's not what they do. They're gibbons. Yeah, I think mostly my issue just lies with how ugly the bars look. I can't seem to make them look good, which is quite a struggle, unfortunately. But it is nice to have Siamang in the game. I need to work with it because I haven't actually built an exhibit for them yet. I've just kind of experimented with it. So I'll do what I can to make the bars look good, and maybe their rating will improve. But for now, I think the highest I can put them in is B tier, which is so disappointing because I adore Siamang and other gibbons. But yeah, I just have too many issues with it in its current state. So that is the completed tier list for now. The animals in the grassland animal pack so far have looked great. The caracal looks good. The armadillo looks good. Maned wolf looks freaking excellent. I think that's an automatic S tier. The striped hyena looks okay. The head doesn't look very good, but the body and the fur shading looks excellent. What else was there? No exhibit animal this time, which I thought was weird, but we are getting a bunch of butterflies, which is pretty cool. We'll be able to do walkthrough exhibits for those, like with the fruit bats. But we're actually going to revisit our D and F tiers and examine why some animals are here and why some have been moved around. And then the black wildebeest, I'm just not really interested in it, and I much prefer... blue wildebeest! That's right, that's what's coming in the Grassland DLC. But yeah, I much prefer blue wildebeest aesthetically, and I think the fur shader just wasn't really ready for these guys yet, so they kind of had this weird like dewlap thing hanging down, which is meant to be like fur, but it just has too much form to it, so it just looks like this big fleshy thing hanging down, so it's just kind of whack. And then warthogs, I think these used to be in C tier, but they've been moved down to D because it's just wrong. It's just wrong. Warthogs aren't this color, and the fur hair texture is just completely wrong. They have like these little like human hair, like these little hairdos up top, and they have like full like shaggy manes, and that's just not what's going on here. There was like a remaster like a year back that like tried to fix it, but they couldn't really work around the hair color, and the colors were still kind of off. I would really like there's a couple animals that I would really like to Frontier to do like a TLC patch on, and this would be one of them. I think the other one would be the orangutan. The grizzly bear, I hate the grizzly bear. It's so fat. Jesus Christ. It's like an obese grizzly bear. And even then, the proportions are just all wrong. The body, like the torso, is just way too short, and like the walk cycle is all wrong. It's just very like stiff and like stilted, and it's just not a good representation of the animal. Grizzly bears have so much like body variation, and color variation. That's another thing. It's so like bright. They really need to tone that down, and it's just kind of a plush. It's just kind of a plush grizzly bear at the moment. Jaguar. This one makes me even angrier because it's just a leopard. They made it a leopard for some reason. Jaguars are such beautiful animals, and they have so much like flesh and muscle on their bodies, and this just doesn't. It's just a completely different looking animal. It's like they designed a big cat from scratch. The remaster fixes all of this, and for some reason, I just struggle with downloading the remasters. I'll need to ask somebody how to do that, but yeah, I would work with the Jaguars much more often if they didn't look like leopards. So yeah, Nile monitor, just kind of wrong, wrong colors, wrong proportions. Tail is way too short. Yeah, not great. What else do we have in here? That's it for D tier. F tier. F tier is a special little tier where the animal's either like not well made or just completely useless. In this case, the Arctic wolf. The only place I know that has Arctic wolves, I think, is I already forgot. I saw it in a Zoo Tours video, the Zoo Tours YouTube channel. But otherwise, yeah, and I just have no interest in building for them. I don't know when I'm going to make like a high Arctic section. Yeah, just really no interest whatsoever. I could just build with the Timberwolves, and I'd be perfectly happy. The Himalayan brown bear. This has no presence in zoos whatsoever, I don't think, and it's critically endangered anyway. So it's complete. It's like totally rare. That's probably why it's not in captivity like anywhere in the Western world, or like just like Western world, global South. Probably not anywhere really in Asia either. I imagine somewhere in its like immediate range, somebody's probably captured one and kept it somewhere, but like otherwise, no. And it doesn't look good. It doesn't look like a Himalayan brown bear. It just looks like another grizzly bear. There's a really good remaster of it though, so that's cool. The Malayan tapir is just a shameful reskin of the Baird's tapir. You can even see where the little dimple is for the Baird's tapir that Malayan tapirs do not have, and it's just been painted over, and it sucks. It's like one of those early game like replacement mods, but like it's official, and because it's just a Baird's tapir, they didn't like change any of the proportions. Malayan tapirs have like really big ears and long trunks and like big sloping backs, and they look awesome. But this just isn't it, man. Yeah. And then is this the last one? Yeah. Spotted hyena. Awful. Truly awful. It's like a cartoon spotted hyena. The colors are so uniform, the spots are so just like polka dots, ugly. The proportions are all wrong, the neck is so long, the limbs are so long. Like hyenas are kind of thick. Like they're built like brick shit houses. And this is just like some weird like dog creature. I don't really know what was going on. The animations are fine. Oh, and then also they have like really long tails for some reason. I don't know what the deal is. There was an excellent remaster. I forget who made it, but I'll put that up and the others hopefully in the description if I remember. But you can look them up pretty quickly. But yeah, that is our updated animal tier list. Like I said, I will just continue to update this as DLCs come out. Probably make another one once the support ends, which will be like a really big deal because they've just been cranking out DLCs since the base game. It's been really impressive how much they've like just kept up the energy. So yeah, that is our tier list. And I'm going to record an episode of Orwell tomorrow, and then it's my turn in St. Reginald Zoo, so I've been working on that. So I think business is good on the channel. So yeah, I'll see you in whatever comes first, and have a good one.